Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
Well, hey, Beastmode, I'm excited about our new series, Investing in You.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It just kind of came on a spur of the moment, and we were just kind of back and forth, and here it is. So we're excited. There's a lot that we can be investing in, and why not invest in ourselves?
Makes a lot of sense. So last time, obviously, we talked about investing in you in terms of career, in terms of job search. We're going to kind of dovetail from that this week into career investment. So just outside of the job search. If you haven't checked out last week's broadcast on investing in you with your job search, then please do check it out. It's quite good. I think we'll also post a video I did a couple months ago over to YouTube. It's about an hour and 15 minutes, I think. It's actually a very in-depth training on job search. So look for that on our YouTube channel. I think I have it on my personal channel. I think we'll repost it over there to Howie and Beastmode. I think it'd be a good asset, and it fits really good with last week's podcast. But anyway, thanks for joining us, guys. So I think Beastmode, obviously, a lot of people could benefit from our podcast last week in terms of job search, skills and preparation and techniques. But this week, I think we wanted to start off a little bit talking about kind of just career planning and career investment in a broader way. So it's complementary, but it's a distinct topic. And, I think you've made some pretty interesting and pretty courageous work choices as well that were, frankly, a stretch. You've already chosen to take the stretch and to work hard and to do some things entrepreneurially. So tell me, how did that happen? How did you decide to take the stretch approach and not take the traditional approach that some people would say safer? Although a lot of us, including myself, are finding out during COVID here, it wasn't as safe as it could have been, of course. But yeah, so maybe just give us a little bit of background about why did you decide to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to partner this with a little bit of what's coming later, and that's the spiritual. And so that's a big part of me in my daily life. And so again, I'm not going to cover it too in depth, but in my previous career choices and things like that, there was always kind of two options that I had, personal and professional, and they kind of lived their own lives. And so whenever the entrepreneurial option came, and again, it came from a spiritual aspect from me, I decided, that I needed to make a decision and go all in one direction. And so I haven't looked back since doing that. Now, I will tell you, it's very, very difficult, and it's something that's completely stretching me in every area, every single day. And so while it is super enjoyable and it's exciting, it's very difficult.
Well, from what I know about it, what makes me happy, I thought about being a nurse in my early career. I actually went to a kickoff meeting at a college to go and get a degree program, and I even had a anatomy and physiology class. So that's kind of, it's interesting how compatible the nursing mindset is with business. If you think about taking care of customers, it actually fits it's oddly comfortable being in sales, actually. And I wouldn't have picked that because I'm an introvert, in spite of having a podcast with you. But yeah, it's really, what I get excited about with your business is that you do take care of people.
Yeah.
And, you do help that. And, we're talking a little bit in this segment about stretching, as far as our careers, but you do help them stretch. And so that's one of the things that makes me happy to see you and to see you work and to hear a little bit about that is the fact that you are in your client's kitchen trying to help them literally, create better meals.
Yeah, and I can truly relate to that thought. I worked at a hospital for 5 years, again, mainly from that avenue of I wanted to help people, and I just assumed, that this is the way to do that, and then I wanted to stay away from sales because I didn't feel like sales I could really help, and then I've come to just learn that through being an entrepreneur and through just clarifying my mission and defining my purpose and really looking for who exactly I'm supposed to be helping, then I can. I mean, I can help, the exact amount of people and the people I'm supposed to be helping. And then I can just be an encouragement and a light to anybody who wants to follow suit behind. And so it's definitely been a journey, and it's definitely just been one that's really exciting. So truly.
It is exciting for sure. Yeah, I can definitely relate to what you're talking about. I think we'll do a segment at some point on investing in your purpose, by the way. You're just making me think.
I like that one.
Yeah, because you just talked about your purpose, and I was thinking, I wonder if people could use some inspiration about finding their purpose, or maybe pulling that out a little bit more. Anyway, but yeah, so
that's definitely a focal point for me. That any type of deal that I'm doing, it's gonna have to, purpose comes in there some way or shape or form. New businesses that are partnering with JL or anything like that, your purpose is involved for us to make sure we're all in the same boat. So
I heard Seth Godin on a broadcast today. There's a broadcast called Behind Your Brand on YouTube, and Seth Godin was being interviewed by that interviewer. I can't remember the guy's name, but he talked about actually choosing your customer. So that's pretty neat. I actually heard that twice today. I didn't expect to hear that twice today, but choosing your customers because of their purpose, their mission, or the fit overall. That's a great idea. So stretching wise, I mean, I guess I have kind of a personal testimony about stretching. As we mentioned in the last broadcast, and maybe even a prior broadcast, I can't remember, I was affected by the pandemic, and my company decided to slash sales pretty significantly. And as the head of sales, I'm more expensive than a rep, so it's easy to cut me. Like that'll buy us some room. And then 3 other sales rep headcounts. One of them quit before she was let go. She would have been let go though. And then 2 others were let go. So the 4 headcount total were affected. And small company, so that was a pretty big, actually it was a really big hit. It was actually taking back 5 years. 5 years in terms of their size of sales force. So pretty big deal. But as I was, and we're going to actually have a little bit of a spiritual for our last segment tonight, by the way, guys, as well. So it'll be interesting to hear how we talk about spiritual life, because normally we talk just about business. But one of the things that, it's interesting that Beast Mode mentioned how his spiritual life has a connection with business and how there's purpose behind all that weaves that together. I actually was just thinking and praying about a week before I was let go. And I was reminded of a verse in Isaiah. You guys can look it up if you want to. It's not like it's evangelistic. It's just, it might encourage anybody of any audience. Isaiah 54:2 talks about enlarge the place of your tent. And that was a week before I was let go. And it encouraged me the evening that I got it, the evening that scripture came to my mind, and I had to go look it up. But then a week later, it was even more meaningful. And so what I've been trying to do in this job search is, I need a job for sure. But I'm also trying to say to myself, it is time to enlarge the place of my tent, and let's have a stretching. So I'm trying to go for a little bit harder jobs, a little bit bigger jobs. I'm trying to do that because I generally, I get in the swimming pool and I can swim, anywhere I've been able to go before. We grow to the job. So instead of me sort of like, apologizing, for things, I'm just not apologizing, and I'm just trying to go for it. And I'm literally not looking at just jobs that are kind of like earlier career type jobs. I'm looking at later career type opportunities, and there's fewer of them, especially during a pandemic. But I think, and however that turns out, I wanted to just pass the principle along to you guys tonight of kind of betting on yourself and believing, because you're never really ready. The first time I was a director actually was 2012. And, a recruiter called me, and I told my wife, I am not ready for this job. And she read the job description. She said, Brian or Howie, this sounds like you. This literally sounds like you. And she bet on me, and it caused me to bet on me. And I've kind of seen that over time that if you'll take on tasks that are a little bit harder than you think you're ready for, you will actually grow to it, and you'll become more than it. Instead of having a confidence problem, which I have classically battled with in the past, not as much lately, but I mean, up until a few years ago, especially, and occasionally still, that imposter syndrome that you hear about a lot. So just stretching and betting on yourself, just like Beast Mode bet on himself, and it's been hard, he says.
Yeah.
But I'm so I know it's not entrepreneurial Beast Mode, but I'm there in terms of taking a little bit of a risk, and I'm being a little bit pickier, and I'm trying to take a little bit bigger jobs.
Yeah, not everybody's risk is the same, and not everybody's stretch is the same. And I think, to just kind of further home your point, I mean, the stretch isn't a volume amount. It's not like everybody needs to stretch the same amount. It's just be in a position to where you are being stretched in some capacity. I know a few months ago, I was really stretched in an area of, kind of an IT technology that was just really frustrating, but I'm through that now. And, I'm grateful for that. Now we're being stretched in different areas. And so it's just being willing to be stretched, and just being willing. I mean, we're going to talk about it, to listen and learn, and just allow whatever that circumstance is to speak. And so just give it room.
That's great. As part of that, I think, we talk about stretching and betting on ourselves and those kinds of things. No one, people have their own world. People have their own life. So there's not a lot of people who will bet on you. There's not, in fact, on the Seth Godin comments today were so good as well. When he said everybody wants to be picked, pick me, but they're not going to pick you. You have to pick you. And so that was such a complimentary thing, I feel like, as well. So pick yourself, bet on yourself, stretch like we've been talking about, try things that are harder, a little bit bigger than you think, and then prepare for it, And the thing is that what I am learning, again, about the job search is that people don't have a lot of imagination and they don't have a lot of time. So you do have to help them kind of think about this. So I'm going to give you a little story about something that happened this weekend. So there's a company that I love, that I'm real interested in, where I applied for the job, and it is a stretch, and it's a VP of business development for a particular company that does kind of like a certain type of remote type service, basically, for companies. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, I can do a lot with this. I can really help them, and I can really see the potential, and I really believe in it. And it was exciting. And then, so, a few days, so I kept wondering about it after I put in the application. And by the way, part of the stretching is going to have to be some of that hustle. I have applied for, I don't know, probably hundreds of jobs, and you don't get very many responses. So you're going to have to really work at that, which is kind of pertinent to like last week's podcast, especially. But I did actually notice that someone with the title of director looked at my profile on LinkedIn, and I clicked on it, and I realized that they were the director, but they were also the CEO. They were like the managing director, the CEO. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if it was Saturday night or Sunday night. I mean, it's all blurry. No, it was Sunday night. I decided to figure out his email address, and just a little sales hack. If you ever go to email-checker.net, you can figure out people's email address, right? So I can figure out Beast Modes by typing, first.last or first initial last, and then their domain name, right? And then it just does a little quick check to the server to see if it's a valid email, right? So I took this guy's email address, or I figured it out, and I had it pass validation. And then I don't even know, I really should have marked the time. It might have been up to 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. Reading their website, looking at it, and essentially creating a business plan. And I basically emailed him this nice note, with a catchy subject line and with his name in it. And I said, things about how I was interested. And here's I talked to him about W. Edward Deming, who is a hero of business that I'm just learning about in the last year or so. But I actually want to take classes from the Deming Institute because of it. But he basically turned around Japan after World War II and made them like Toyota what they are today. there's like an award called the Deming Prize, actually, that is given out by Japan. It's like the highest honor you can get in Japan, for business at least. And so I wrote about that, and then I wrote this whole like mini business plan about what I thought the potential was, how I divide the sales teams, what the roles were, and I sent it. And I got a response yesterday morning at 9:30, thanking me for my thoughts, thanking me for tracking him down, and thanking me for the insights, and saying that HR was going to follow up with me, right? But if you think about the risk of that, of reaching out to the CEO, right, just because he looked at your profile, and then writing up this like massive investment of time, like I'll never get that back. Like it's so proprietary. It's absolutely proprietary. I cannot reuse that information.
Yeah.
But I got a response. And the thing about it is that I bet on me, and I stretched, and it was hard, and it was risky, and I may not have gotten a response. But going the extra mile in your stretch, I brought this up because it's kind of a fusion of stretching and betting on yourself, as well as last week some of the hustle we talked about. It's putting all that together and saying, how can I be creative, provide them some value, which also shows my value to them. And yeah, so apparently I'm going to be called by HR. I don't know, I guess that'll be an interview, hopefully. But yeah, I don't know if it'll work out. But the point is that in the stretching, beast mode, if I don't get that job, wouldn't you say I still stretched?
No, 100%. You definitely stretched, and you definitely walked the walk of what we're talking about, what we've been talking about for the past 23 weeks that we've been doing this podcast. But you definitely sowed the insights. You took that
True.
time.
Okay.
You stressed yourself, and because I'm sure whenever you started, you didn't have necessarily the full plan, but you had something. So you had to do some research. You had to dig deep.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I like the stretching. And again, when you stretch, you open the door for opportunity. And so you probably could have applied for that and just left it how it is, and maybe you would have gotten the same response. But now you just see that this type of thing works all across. So it's not just stretching to say I should try a new career. It's stretching, hey, I should stretch in this relationship. I should stretch in the types of books that I read. I should stretch in how I take care of myself. It's so the same aspect goes all the way across.
Well, it's like you say famously, things travel in our personality, and that's so true. Yeah. It's so good. Well, I know we took a lot of time on that. We want to cover friendship investment and spiritual investment if we have time. Yeah. Do you want to just dive into the friendship investment and talk a little bit about what your experience is with, sort of like surrounding yourself with the right people?
Yeah, I know that there's a pretty great, we were talking about this early in our prep, whether it's a fact or whether it's just one of those really just kind of hard-nosed, reliable traits that, who you are surround yourself with, that's who you're going to be made up of. And so, and it's just it's key. And I know that I've seen it in my own personal life. Now, there is a faith aspect of this that I 100% agree with, and I just can't stay away from it. That, again, how and whatever's pouring into you is what's going to come back out. So anybody who's taking time to come check this out, again, you're receiving information from two guys who are spiritually faith-based that want to pour into you. And so that's what we do. We go get filled up someplace else and come pour it out. And so you got to choose wisely. If you got somebody who's encouraging you not to stretch or encouraging you to stay put, that's the type of individual you're going to be. But if you have somebody who's in your corner that's supporting you, then it's no reason why, it's no surprise why you're taking the steps that you are right now, because I know who's in your corner. So
it's good. That's a lot of that really spoke to me. I have a set of relationships that in 1998, around the fall, I had a set of friendships that I actually officially called and canceled. I literally called them because they were a critical group who, they were always on your case. And I was moving into sales, and I was like, I already had confidence problems, and I didn't need that anymore. I didn't need to be constantly on guard about having someone tearing me down at my, sort of like for their pleasure and my expense. I didn't need that anymore. And I met my wife that same summer, or that spring actually, and I was getting serious as well. And I didn't want her to expose to harsh, unkind, type of things as well. And so I called him, and I actually divorced my friends, and I didn't have a lot of friends left actually, because it was a core friend group, but a couple of peripheral ones that one of them still friends today. But yeah, it was a very hard conversation. And I found their number. I tracked them down a few years ago. This might have been up to 15 years after I did that, and I never spoke to them after that, by the way. But I tracked them down, and they said that they actually apologized for treating me that way, and I apologized that I know I had hurt them by having to leave like that. But they were a super negative group. I can't describe it to you, but I had a hard past, and they were perpetuating what I had lived through in my hard past, and they were making it worse. And I was trying to get into sales. I was maybe going to get married and all that stuff. So there are times when you invest in friendships, you also need to kind of think about de-investing sometimes. And maybe it's not that dramatic. I know that's a really painful story to probably hear. It's painful to say it.
Yeah.
But there can be a backing off that's more subtle. If they're not super toxic, you can just back off and kind of start filling the void. So that's my experience, but I concur with you. I mean, we are affected by the influences of the people around us. And I want more light and hope and joy and wisdom. That's what I want, and I don't want someone who says out loud the very worst doubts I have about myself. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I want someone to say, yeah, you may have this or that you're working on, but you're awesome for these 5 reasons, and that's why we love you. You know what I mean? That's the kind of friends I have now, by the way. That's who I've surrounded. I have really positive friends. And I'm super careful in friendship too. So yeah, I think this is a really good topic. And I'm sorry I got a little bit personal with that, but it illustrates that I've done it, and it helped.
Yeah, de-investing is very difficult, and it's hard to do right. It's hard to do in any aspect of it. There's probably, in my mind, not an easy way to do it. I mean, the best ways is, if you have to do that, you do it from your heart. It's not something that I'm sure that you wanted to do. It's not something that you wanted to last as long as it did. But there may be a season or a time where you just say, hey, I think this is best for everybody if we just, work on ourselves. If I'm investing in me, maybe you can invest in you, and we can come back and try this again. Or sometimes you just say, our roles are going to change to where maybe I'm not allowing you to speak into me the way that you used to, and we can still be friends, but your role just changed. You're not in that position of speaker.
Yeah, I'm a real high empathy person, so it's hard even thinking about that. What happened, but it was a major wake-up call to them, because they told me that. They told me that when I talked to them 15 or 10 years. I don't know, 12 years later. So yeah, I think it was very positive. And now I have friends that, are, really walking through this tough time with me right now. And that's what I need. Like I said, light and hope and wisdom, and joy. And that's the kind of thing. And that's what I want to give as well. So, anyway, that's a little bit about what happened to me. Anything else to add to the friendship investment type thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is you're being led by something outside of just emotions. So it's not something that somebody frustrates you. You need to take Howie's advice and just go scorched earth. And I think that you did it in a way to where there was a bridge that was still available. It wasn't scorched earth.
No, I didn't yell. It was very calm and explanatory. I gave them the reasons. Yeah, and they were like, "Well, we're not." They even said, "Well, we're not going to change."
That's
so yeah,
fine.
there was kind of that choice. There was that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just in that case, I mean, it's just a reshuffling in your mind. You can say, "Here's where I am," and if you disagree, that's okay. If you don't like me because of it, that's okay. And I'm sure maybe you didn't say it, but probably in your mind, it was like, we can reevaluate this at some point,
Yeah.
and it sounds like that's what you did, 10,
Yeah.
12 later, whatever.
Yeah, I did.
And so
we were supposed to have lunch, and he kind of flicked out, so he might have just been too embarrassed or something. But yeah, we even planned lunch. I'll probably ping him again at some point, actually, and try that
and I
out.
think
At least the lunch
that
again.
just speaks to the heart that you're coming from, and not just saying, you're the reason I'm not where I'm supposed to be. You're the reason why I'm going through this. That's not it. It's just saying, I think it's best if we invest in ourselves and come back and regroup.
Mm-hmm.
Just leave it like that. So
100%. Well, spiritual investment. So on this, we're clear on this podcast that we are faith oriented. And what that means is that we're Christians. And we are, we have a very compassionate, non-judgmental way of living that faith. And I know we don't have a lot of time left, but, I think that a quick chat about where we're coming from would be nice. And you guys can investigate on your own. I mean, that's from my perspective, but, I know it's hard to ask someone to do that in 1 minute, but maybe we could take a minute each and give the quick version. And then maybe we'll record eventually a special session just on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of that you can find. I know that you can find it for me personally, other ways, and so we don't have to take up the entire time. For me, it's the biggest investment I can make. It's the start of every single one of my days. If I don't start that way, then the day's much more difficult, and so I have to make that investment, mainly because I know the type of person and the output that I receive, not only when I don't do that, but when I didn't make that investment each day. And so I make that choice each and every day. There's nothing that's more important, and if something happens to where I miss it, like I said, that day is much more strenuous than what it should be. So I just encourage you to have something similar. So.
Yep. Awesome. Good job. That was the quickest I've ever heard it, I think. My version isn't any more complex than that. I would say that, I follow Jesus Christ. I have quite a past. I have things that I can't be forgiven from, on my own. And so what Christ does is he gives a replacement, and he says, I'll take that, and I'll forgive you. And, there's not judgment. He came to seek and save the lost. He didn't come to seek perfect people. So if your heart, and anytime we've ever spoken, or if you're just alone at night, if your heart ever talks to you and says, I really want to know that I'm right with God, so that I know where I'm going, after this life, and I have the power to live in hope and joy and the answers in this life. I just absolutely encourage you, we both do, to reach out to the Lord and to ask Jesus and just say, are you real? Just have that honest conversation with him. And I've always heard, people who are a little more evangelistically trained than I am, I've heard them encourage people to read the book of John. You can go download the YouVersion app for free and read the book of John. A good translation for that, by the way, is the New Living Translation. I think you'd find it very readable. It's a little less complex than some of the older language ones. But yeah, read the book of John and check that out, and just say, God, what are you saying to me? And I think you'd be really excited and really blessed. And feel free to hit us up anytime as well. For all the different ways that you can get a hold of us. But yeah, I think we'll probably wrap it up. Thanks for letting us share a little bit personal there. It's hard to not share something that has been life-changing for both myself and for Beastmode. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit, Beastmode.
Howie, it's always a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to just allowing this series on investing in ourselves to just culminate and just continue to progress. So we're looking forward to it.